in memory of soldiers of the 29th Separate Novosibirsk Special Ski Troop Brigade. The Russian snowdrifts came alive. The Siberian regiments moved along, well-equipped, armed and able, patient and resourceful, expert shooters and skiers, ready to die for their motherland. The Snow Phantoms.
Granny, what do we do if Germans kill Daddy? Granny Nera, let me go to war. I will go and help Daddy.
Your daddy, Lenka, is an able and courageous man. He will definitely come home. You and I shall pray, have faith, and wait for the victory. If you believe in victory, it will surely come. Victory is like this cloth, Lenka. It is composed of lots of little threads. A thread, next thread. Soldier's lot is to fight. Women's lot is to grow bread. Let us believe in victory. It will definitely come.
Hello guys! Today you're all taking part in our social experiment. You are to relieve the training conditions of the 29th Separate Novosibirsk Special Ski Troop Brigade for one full day. Good luck to all. I hope that every one of you will emerge on top of that challenge.
Siberian warriors had a reputation of the best warriors ever. They had been ardently expected to appear in the front lines. I want to see if the young generation, as well as I, possess any of their qualities, their backbone, their fortitude. For me, that is a true memory, since this project is directly linked with our history, with the history of our people, of my family. You get bored sitting in the office all day, therefore I decided to live it up over the weekend.
To have some good time over the weekend.
Over the weekend, yeah. From what I understand, the conditions are going to be harsh. We expect a complete immersion into the military atmosphere of back then. This is very interesting because I want to relive my grandfather's experience. Well, I hope everyone will do well. We shall try our best. The Great Patriotic War. Bloody, destructive. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany troops had crossed the border into the USSR. Axis powers, Hitler's Germany, Romania, Italy, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Japan, Finland, and Hungary had joined their forces. The Nazis were counting on Blitzkrieg, or the Lightning War. They had plans to celebrate their victory in a few months. The Soviet soldiers had put up some unthinkable resistance. At the time, it seemed that Russian climate has joined the fight against the Germans. October 6, late night, the first snow fell, which is very early. In November 1941, the General Staff had assumed a scorched earth strategy and issued an order to burn down and destroy every settlement within 40 to 60 kilometers behind the German lines, as well as 20 to 30 kilometers to the sides of the roads. They used the Air Force, artillery, mortar fire, and the ski troops for that purpose. Why ski troops? The fact is that cars are stuck in the deep snow. The same happens to infantry units in massive snowdrifts. However, skiers can quickly move through the forest and on the field. They're ready for the trials of frost and endless raids. ready to penetrate a breach in the enemy defense lines. They could approach the enemy unnoticed like phantoms. That was the reason Nazis called them snow phantoms. Germans used their elite forces to fight snow phantoms, used their air force, artillery and tanks. They feared them and hated them. The ski troops in Russia enlisted the fastest and the most courageous fighters. Ski troop detachments had been a part of Peter the Great and Catherine II forces. The ski shooters took part in the Napoleonic Wars, the First World War, Soviet-Finnish War, the Great Patriotic War. Guys, get your skis. By the way, they used to call skis wooden horses at the time of war. Anyone who loses or breaks his skis is out of the experiment.
We have 5 minutes before the experiment begins. The story of snow phantoms begins in the summer of '42. These were dreadful months. Our troops had suffered heavy losses battling the Nazis. The Germans had occupied Sevastopol and Kharkov, kept on fighting their way to Stalingrad. The general staff understood that winter is coming. Ski troop brigades and battalions were formed all over the country. First, the soldiers had to go through training prior to going to the front lines that December. The order to form a brigade comes to Novosibirsk region as well. We lived in the village of Abroshino, Ordinsky district, Novosibirsk region. My father worked in a forestry project as a machine operator. He was 28 at that time. He had been recruited in September in 1942. My mother used to say that every man in the village was recruited.
Separate battalions had been formed for the Red Army. Their task was to penetrate through the enemy lines, surround enemy units, and wage war in search and destroy missions. Physically able, courageous, resolute, and morally sound people had been chosen for the ski troop units, the best of the Soviet youth. Siberia provided a lot of them. In Siberia, particularly in the taiga areas, authorities had been scouring for such individuals. These people could naturally adapt for various harsh weather and climate conditions. In the fall of 1942, separate special ski troop brigades had been formed in the Urals. They were the 30th Omsk Brigade, the 29th Novosibirsk Brigade, the 28th Altai Brigade. Siberians have volunteered in large numbers, not just Russians, Ukrainians, Tatars, Uzbeks, Bashkirs. Representatives of many ethnicities of the Soviet Union went to fight Nazis. The Novosibirsk Brigade had been stationed in Bryansk. A major railway station was located there. Military units and freight trains had been passing on the way to the west through here. Factories and plants had been evacuated to the east. The fresh recruits did not go to the front lines right away. They had 3 months of training first. Well, we were playing in the street when we saw the soldiers passing by. They were marching on in a strict formation, led by a female commander. When we saw them, we could feel right away these are real soldiers, our defenders. Lenka was so proud for our soldiers. Here they are, marching on, our defenders, in long greatcoats and boots, champion fighters no less. As soon as they enter fighting, the war is done with. Get ready to turn. Right shoulder forward. Stop moving. Halt. Right marker. Attention. Greetings, my fellow participants. I salute you. We salute you, sir. My congratulations with the start of the experiments. Hooray! 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 Ski troopers had played a major role in that warfare. They had to possess important fighting qualities, such as endurance, good bearings. They had to march for several hundred kilometers on end and spend their nights in the forest. Ski troopers had light infantry weapons, including squad support machine guns, which had to be carried, of course. Ski troopers had been used where heavy war machines couldn't pass. The skiers trained not only in wintertime, but in summer as well. They trained with bayonets, wooden grenades, so-called dummies. They completely imitated live grenades. They developed melee and ranged combat skills. Young soldier came to our house. We have been told to room and board him. He was too young to shave, and he wore a simple countenance.
Come on in, Alyosha dear. Have dinner. The food is still hot. Eat.
No, thank you. I would like to sleep.
You want to sleep, dear. Too tired. You should eat, though.
Brother, can you find me a log? Our commander is ordered to concoct a grenade dummy.
Is she stern?
Satan-like.
Is that so, dear?
With rookies like us, she has to be.
Here's the log.
See? Look at that grenade dummy. Looks good, right? I can sleep now. I whittled woodblock on a bench. I came to the table. I called in little comforts from my grandmother, and by nightfall I light in shavings on the floor. I fell asleep with a dummy grenade in my hand, and I had a dream.
Daddy! Daddy! Daddy!
He's at the training. Ask me to thank you for the dummy grenade.
Daddy!
O Christ, Thou art the protector. O merciful in might, help us to overcome the foe of Herod proportion. Save the soldiers from certain doom.
There they are! There they are!
Steady! I said steady! Hold on! Stand tough! Harder! Here you are! Come on! More precise and even more precise! Hit it! Keep the formation! Why are you holding it as if it's a goal? It is going to explode now! Drop it! Crawl! Who crawls like that? Lower! Lower your butt to the ground. Well done. Well done. Keep crawling. Keep crawling. Faster. Faster. Keep your backside lower still.
In October, icy rains begin to fall. How to train fighters now? We had to build ski tracks. They dug long, deep trenches. They covered them with foliage and straw. The skiers learned to slide on skis with weapons ready and practice skiing through these trenches. And then they dragged machine guns and ammunition on sleds made of skis.
At the beginning of the war, many factories were producing skis. Timber farms, collective farms, and even the Novosibirsk meat processing plant. Skis were collected from the civilians. In the first quarter of 1941, the Novosibirsk furniture factory had produced peacetime products. In the second quarter of 1941, it switched to accommodate military orders. The plants were equipped with everything that was necessary for the skis production. Skis were manufactured in two ways. If the ski tips were bent and glue-dried, using industrial equipment, they could make up to 200 pairs daily. Moreover, when the ski tips were bent and glue-dried using household irons, they could produce up to 500 to 600 pairs a day. Skis never lasted in storage, once made to the front lines. More, good! Well done! Be patient, my dear. We have to. Hold on your rifle tighter. Aim smaller, aim smaller.
In November, in addition to daily marches and fire weapon training, ski trips through fields, forests, and ravines had been added as well. Marshal Georgy Zhukov declared that the army is an instrument of war. It exists to fight the enemies of the motherland, and it must be prepared for this fight. Otherwise, we shall have no choice but to finish training in the course of the battle, which would lead to unnecessary losses. If you lose your way on ski track, freeze, stray from your unit, find your way back on your own. There was no room for resentment. We go to war tomorrow. The commanders were all well aware of what was waiting for the brigades on the front lines. They trained people to attack, retreat, stand their ground, and survive. A good fighter is a brave scout, a brave pointman, and a sharp-eyed sentry. The brigade formation has been completed by December 23. 2,986 fighters, some very young men, and some in their 30s and 40s. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Mazhaika has been called to command the brigade. An experienced military commander, he had been transferred from commanding a ski troop brigade on the Korean front. By the end of 1942, the Germans went on the defensive. A large German group was surrounded at Stalingrad. The Wehrmacht suffered heavy losses. The Axis regiments in the area were annihilated. Using this initiative, the Red Army mounted a counteroffensive along the entire length of the Soviet-German front. On January 15, 1943, the soldiers arrived at the Bryansk station. There were 3 long and heavy freight trains reserved for 3 ski troop battalions. A train with the Red Army soldiers is leaving to defend the motherland from the Bryansk platform. Nobody knew where they were going. Some assumed it was Stalingrad. There have been some heavy fighting. The Don River Army Group keeps pushing forward to surround the large group of enemy units. In the months, an army group will be transferred to the central area, and the name will be changed accordingly. It will become the Central Army Group. The 29th Separate Ski Troop Brigade will be a part of that army group.
Take some food with you. Eat on the way.
Thank you, Mother.
The whole city was agitated. Mothers, fathers, kids. Everyone went to the square. We weren't just crying, we were wailing.
The news of our victories reached Siberia. They were inspiring and encouraging. The Battle of Stalingrad radically changed the course of the Great Patriotic War. The Red Army received a strategic initiative. Siberian skiers were sent west to the front line. Now we're going to Hinel to dig for the remnants along the route of the 29th Ski Troop Brigade. We found Russian and German cartridge casings, various calibers and sizes. We dug in a swamp and unearthed tank track link size 12.
We managed to find the remains of a plane and a dead pilot. We buried him in our village cemetery.
I believe that it is my duty, so to speak, to the motherland.
For me, the motherland has a profound meaning. It is not just a word. The motherland is my country, my city, and my family.
Many people do not know about their relatives who fought in the Great Patriotic War. We need to help them. We should sympathize with them and understand them.
The Soviet uniform, the German uniform, how do you tell them apart?
Yes, first of all, they're of different color. The Russian uniform was better adapted to the trench warfare. We are at the Sinar factory. Here, from the very beginning of the war, the civilian production has been replaced with military orders. People did not leave the factories for 2 weeks at a time. They were sleeping here on the desks and on the benches. The machines worked around the clock. Automation was nearly non-existent back then. They had no spinning and winding machines. The clothing presser had to move around 15 kilograms irons, lifting them 1,000 times per shift. All that carried out by women. During the war, the army had to be clothed and shoed. The Novosibirsk region itself supplied the front lines with about 4 million sets of winter and summer uniforms. That was enough to provide warm clothing for the fighting men of 40 divisions, sets of summer uniforms for 260 divisions. These greatcoats were made for the soldiers of the Red Army at these factories. The 29th Separate Ski Troop Brigade fighters went into battle wearing them, our city's residents. Go, 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 go! Encampment is under attack. Stand up and fight. Not a bad idea. But it is all wrong. You came up at the very edge. As soon as they see you, they will shoot you down, because you have nowhere to hide. Go, go, go! Keep pushing. Maxon, damn it! Move it! Go, go, go! Face down, fire in the hole! Don't lose your backpacks, duffel bags, and weapons. Use your legs. I'm beat, so beat. The key element here is not just survival. You need to complete your task. No matter how thirsty you are, do not eat the snow.
Are you done?
Well, yes, I'm done. I felt sick, you see. I feel dizzy.
Is it challenging?
Very much indeed. It is particularly difficult for the untrained person. On February 15, 1942, the Don Army Group has been disbanded to be reformed into the Central Army Group. Several ski troop units have been transferred to the Central Army Group, including the Siberian 28th, 29th, and the 30th. In early February, Siberian skiers were approaching the front lines. On February 9, 1943, the soldiers unloaded at the Yefremov station. They became a part of Lieutenant General Kryukov's 2nd Guard Cavalry Corps.
Поплыли туманы над рекой, выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег над рукой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег над рукой.
They were fighting for more than a year by then. The turning point was near. My mother and I came to visit my father. We spent a few days with him. Budyonny and Rokossovsky were there for some time, and there were many other military commanders. My mother has purchased 2 Katyusha rocket-propelled projective truck-based launchers and presented them to my father's corps unit. The fighters renamed them from Katyushas to Lidushas after my mom.
The soldiers moved out to the front line on skis. Altai and Omsk brigades alongside the Novosibirsk brigade. In short, all Siberians. It took a long time for them to get there, mostly moving at night, through deep tank ruts, roadsides, ravines. Endured winds, snow, deep snow drifts, and muddy thaw with pouring rain. They would not stop. Well, fighters, did you warm up a little? Huddle up. At first, everything was normal. You dig a hole in the snow, put some branches over it, stretch a waterproof cape on top, and lie down close to each other. Then it got worse. We were too exhausted to dig holes in the snow. Fighters just collapsed from severe fatigue and slept out in the open. In lieu of strong winds, half of the fighters were frostbitten. They kept on pushing forward by virtue of sheer willpower. It was much more than just marching forward. One of the fighters would write in his diary, but some kind of superhuman long-range maneuver of all-powerful army throughout Russia.
At the same time, Krukov wrote to Rokossovsky, February the 27th, top secret. People are exhausted and severely fatigued. The horses are in the same condition. To restore combat effectiveness, these brigades urgently need a 2-day rest. Otherwise, they will continuously lag behind. The battle will be fought by cavalry divisions alone. They should be preserved as the most mobile units. If that is impossible, then I shall continue to perform the task assigned to me.
However, there was no time to rest. After almost 500 kilometers march, the Siberian skiers approached their enemy. They have lost dozens of soldiers along the way from starvation, frost, typhus fever. The Central Army Group has begun its first combat operation on February 25.
Well, it was a hard life for everyone. Every adult, well, dug trenches so that the Germans couldn't pass. I remember their planes flying over us and dropping bombs. We went with my mother to draw water, air raid, my mother covered me too, and they were dropping some kind of flares. Around here, everything burned down. Thatched roof used to be everywhere around here. The Germans had torched every house around here. They came up to us and wanted to shoot my grandmother. They shot 2 old men. The Germans were passing through at night. These 2 old men were hiding in the basement. They found them, dragged them out of the basement. Do you see their maple tree? That maple tree. That's where they shot them, under that maple tree.
The German command was well aware of the ongoing advance of the Second Army's tank units, mobile cavalry and ski troop to the Sevsk area. Their intelligence and air reconnaissance worked well. The Soviet tank units had taken Fateyevka, the last German-occupied stronghold, and continued on toward the city. The 2nd Guard Cavalry Corps and ski troop brigades bypassed the city from southeast. On March 1 in the evening, the battle for the city began, which ended late at night. Soviet troops took Sevsk, as well as the local villages Sinoye, Dobrovodye, Yurasov Hutor. Early March 1943, fierce battle took place in the village of Hinel. That is where we are now. The 29th Ski Troop Brigade liberated this place after some fierce fighting. Many fighters lost their lives here. And it appears they were advancing from that side. Yes, they were advancing from the other side. There's an elevated position here, so the Germans took it. Our troops were scattered out in the fields, and it was paramount to push the Germans out of here. Many fighters lost their lives here. All of them were left lying around here, in the fields, on the vegetable patches, in the ditches, yes, right on the vegetable patches. Because when the charge is on, fighter runs, falls down, digs a small trench, gets killed. No one around to dig a shallow grave and bury him. No civilians were left here. They were all out in the woods, participating in a guerrilla war effort.
Everyone around here, older and younger people, called these skiers our saviors, because that's who they were. Everyone knew that they were Siberians, Siberian ski troop. All these areas were completely occupied by the Germans. They abused us, raped us, and did whatever they wanted to us. Many were forcefully taken to Germany. People would always say, "Thanks to the Siberian skiers, thank you."
When it's early March, you can't ski far, really.
They came to us one morning in March in 1943, and one soldier in, all white comes in and says, "Grandma, we've left some stuff here." Mother asked, "What stuff?" Well, he says, "Let us go out and I will show you. We left our skis, Grandma, and you take care of them." There wasn't much snow left, so skis were probably of no use to them for the time being. Well, she asked, "Where are you from?" "We are from Siberia," he said. "We are all Siberians, Grandmother." So, boys, is it hard?
It's okay.
Okay. Who's next?
What do you mean next? To quit? Nobody.
Nobody?
We are the team.
Good lads.
On the frontier, Roger. Come in, come on. Keep on crawling, keep on crawling. Let's repeat. Shoulder, stalk, stand fast. Keep your balance, do not fumble. On your knee, aim. I'm tired and my throat is sore. I must have caught chest cold. I feel exhausted. Can't deal with it no more.
You've planned to get to the end though.
Can't go on. I'm done. I failed.
Running out of juice.
I'm done. See, yet he wants another extra helping. If you're wounded, don't help him. You're considered to be unconscious.
What's wrong? Why are you leaving?
My knee hurt. It's my old injury.
You won't change your mind, will you? Are you done?
No, I won't for sure. It's time for me to quit. To tell you the truth, it was unforgettable and very interesting experience. Pretty cool.
What's bothering you?
I'm freezing, really bad.
Jan, have you decided to quit?
Yes, it's time to do that probably.
What do you think about it altogether?
Altogether, I liked it very much. I will not forget these emotions, perhaps until the day I die. Those will be among my most shocking sensations ever. The only thing comparable was when we went to St. Petersburg. We were searching for the remnants of the soldiers who died in the Second World War. On March 4, 1943, skiers of a separate ski troop brigade had captured the village of Sevsk and had gone on to Yampol. The garrison, which consisted of German collaborationists as well as Hungarians, had been reinforced with tanks and armored vehicles. The battle for the city had continued for the whole day, and by the nightfall of March 5, 1943, it has been liberated. After liberation of Sevsk, 29th Separate Ski Troop Brigade, along with the 3rd Guard Cavalry Division, advanced further, covering the left flank of the Mounted Rifleman Unit. The 28th Ski Troop Brigade advanced almost at the same time as the 29th Brigade. It stopped in the district of Marshikina Buda. Such was the beginning of the raid. It was heroic, tragic, and tragically forgotten. Later, it will be called the Sevsk Raid. On March 7, 1943, the soldiers of the 3rd Battalion of the 29th Brigade approached the Ukrainian village of Ivot. German troops occupied it a year and a half before, in October 1941. It was their heavily fortified area. The Desna River was behind it. Quick and elusive snow phantoms did not give the Germans a chance to figure out exactly what was going on. The battle for Ivot lasted almost 8 hours. As a result, the enemy was pushed back over to the eastern bank of the river. On March 10 at 7 a.m., the Germans pulled up the tanks, artillery, and the Air Force all the way closer to the village. They were getting ready. It was a crisp, nippy winter day when the division commander climbed into his all-terrain vehicle nicknamed the Goat to personally lead the attack on the Ivot village. Every artillery battery, Nebelwerfer, heavy rocket-propelled mortars, anti-tank guns, and conventional mortars rained down a deadly hail of fire on the enemy-occupied village. Soon, thick clouds of smoke rose into the sky. The entire settlement was on fire. The village was engulfed in flames. The village was completely surrounded. The heat and smoke was choking the life out of every human being in there. The wind constantly fanned the flames. The tanks continued to advance. They had to tear every house to pieces before the Russian resistance was broken down. Comrade Commander, Germans in ghillie suits were noticed coming in from the side of the river. Sound the alarm. Yes, sir. Gather the submachine gun fighters, send them to me. Get away. Go to the edge of the village. Hide in the cellars. Machine gun to the left flank. Where are they? 3 fighters.
Hier sind sie ja. Tötet sie alle. Na, Kinderpartisanen. Los, Knallder. Kinderpartisanen müssen sterben.
The battle for Ivat continued for 5 hours. 200 soldiers of the ski troop battalion were killed. 120 got captured by the Germans. The Nazis did not spare the local residents as well. They were entering the houses and shooting everybody in sight, men, women and children. In the collective farm stables, 50 Ivat citizens were burned alive.
I started to look through the old documents and found that my father, Minchenko Fyodor Ivanovich, the Red Army soldier, a scout, was killed in the battle on the 10th of March 1943 in the village of Ivat. My mother received 3 of such death notifications. It said that her husband, the Red Army soldier, Fyodor Timofeyevich Mukaseyev, was missing in action at the front line on the 10th of March 1943. We didn't believe it. We were waiting for my father for 20 years. My mother never married. Then we decided to find out where he was buried. It was confirmed that on the 10th of March in 1943, he was missing in action near Ivat village in Ukraine.
After the Germans left the village, local residents buried the dead over 3 days. Locals in the village cemetery. When there was no more room left, in the village, on the patches, the Red Army fighters were buried in a mass grave. Why did we lose the battle for Ivat? The fact is that in Ivat, skiers faced a strong, superior force of the enemies that had a massive advantage in weapons and numbers. This was the German 4th Panzer Division. The outcome was also a result of no armored support and, in fact, viable anti-tank defense.
The night is upon us. Are you ready to spend the night, or it's better to go home?
It's always better at home, but since we already started, we'll go home when we get there.
You're all staying then, aren't you? What's wrong, Vasya?
It really looks like I caught a chest cold. Lungs are hurting. I wish I could stay, but I got to take care of myself for now, you know? Lights out at 10. Wake up at 8. You can rest here. There are 5 of you. On your feet. Falling outside. Facing camp. Run out, go, go, go. Put on your boots. No, scratch that. Put on your fat boots. Move it. Starting from the man to the right. Smaller circle. Go. The same way you did yesterday. On March 19, German and Hungarian units rushed into Sevsk. The city was defended by all: tank, rifle brigades, cavalrymen, Siberian skiers. In March 1943, it was unbearably hot from the burning buildings. The snow melted. Walls and roofs fell in with a crash. Clouds of sparks flew in the scorching air. The fighting was brutal and bloody. We were bombarded with thousands of bombs and shells. The Nazi tanks were coming at us, squashing metal.
Противник не давал нам передохнуть.
The enemy did not give us a break, and we stood without giving an inch. When the shelling stopped, we rushed the enemy and in hand-to-hand combat repelled them. We made the enemy pay for every inch of the land. Nevertheless, we were still forced to leave the city. By the early morning of March 27, Sevsk had no defenders left. Every square meter was covered with blood. An ancient city, a fortress city, a warrior city has been burned and destroyed. Operation Sevsky Raid was over. A large number of General Krukov's cavalry riflemen lost their lives.
In the battles for our villages of the Sevsky district, a brave skier of the 29th Novosibirsk Separate Ski Troop Brigade, Novikov, was killed. He kept a diary and described everything that happened.
Cut off from all communications, we are forced to withdraw. The retreat was very difficult, and it is unbearably painful to leave our people in the villages to their fate. We are retreating to the rear base, which was not far. What for? I stayed back looking for my radio sets. We are currently at the civic cemetery of Byki village in Sevsky district in Bryansk region. That is a grave of Lieutenant Major Novikov, Assistant Chief of Communications of the 29th Novosibirsk Separate Ski Troop Brigade, and a submachine gunner platoon commander Vladimir Filipenko. On the 18th, they moved out from their unit disposition to the 28th Ski Troop Brigade deployment to coordinate their actions. While approaching Byki hamlet, from a distance of 300 to 400 meters, they were spotted by a Nazi scout. And an enemy sniper killed Lieutenant Major Novikov and Lieutenant Filipenko. Women buried them with honors, and they cried for them.
One skier had dark and curly hair, and the women were reluctant to bury him because he was so very handsome. He had a very thick hair.
A birch tree grew at the head of the grave. The locals believe it to be an omen. Birch tree name implies protection. Therefore, they protect and cherish. They cherish the memories of the war and of the Siberians. In fact, it is really a dreadful place, soaked in blood. Almost the entire ski troop unit perished there, but did not let the enemy through. Twice they had to retreat, and twice they fought back to retake what they had lost. Almost all of them are still in these forests. They lie and wait for pathfinder gatherers to find them, in order to dig them out, bury them with honors, with dignity, the way heroes deserve.
From February to May 1943, most of the 29th Brigade fighting men died. It was disbanded, and those left alive were reassigned to the 112th Rifleman Division, the Siberian division, which was formed, by the way, in the neighboring Tatarsk. They fought alongside each other. No historian can say exactly how many of our skiers died. Losses were not always accounted for with proper accuracy. At times they may be deemed classified to mislead the enemy. Here is an example.
I'm holding in my hands a wartime choir. It was designed to carry secret papers, maps, personnel files, and such. Not everyone knows how to use it right. There's a plastic film inside it. It had a secret map hidden behind it. If an officer holding it found himself being surrounded by the enemy troops or in a similar dangerous situation with a high probability of death or capture, he had to quickly destroy its content. All he had to do was to quickly lit a small piece of it and close it down. It would start smoldering inside and everything would turn to ash. Every secret document, every map, etc.
According to the documents, on the 2nd of April 1943, the brigade had 1,012 active combatants enlisted. But who were they? Were they the remaining skiers that joined the guerrillas? Were they some local conscripts mobilized by field military enlistment officers? We still have to figure it out.
Pathfinder gatherers work with archives, study combat reports, and discover fighters' identities. From April to November, they spend time out in the sites of battles and skirmishes. Sometimes they get lucky enough to find some personal items with a soldier's name inscribed, scattered by the discovered remains, such as cookware, items, spoons, cigarette cases, etc. As long as we keep the memories alive, the people who died defending our fatherland live in those memories. Those who died on this land. The biggest deal for Pathfinder Gatherer is to discover not just remains, but a dog tag as well. That is a sure way to establish where the soldier was born, as well as his combat history. Perhaps even arrange a burial with full military honors at the soldier's place of birth.
The Sevsk search team has discovered names and remains of more than 14,000 missing and dead soldiers and officers of the Soviet army. They found 869. We keep such archives for every dead soldier, and we pass them on to their relatives. When we do that, we often see tears of joy, because their long-awaited and beloved person has returned home and now can be let to rest. It is very important for us to identify every dead soldier in Bryansk.
The General Krukov Mounted Rifleman Group played an important role in the spring and winter offensive of the Central Army Group. Cavalrymen and skiers had tied in 4 enemy divisions. Because of this offensive of the Central Army Group, the northern face of the Kursk Bulge was formed the way it was, which led to heavy German losses that forced the German command to postpone its Citadel offensive from April to the beginning of June. That allowed the Soviet troops to fortify their defense positions and collect reserves in the Kursk Bulge. As a result, in the end, the German offensive operation, the Citadel, was stopped. The Red Army went on the offensive and seized the strategic initiative, which from then on lasted until the very end of the Great Patriotic War. Sevsk was liberated 5 months after the March events. After the victory on the Kursk Bulge, August 27, 1943. It was liberated through unified efforts of the Air Force, artillery, tanks, and infantry. And those who defended the city in the spring, and those who survived the fighters of the Siberian ski brigades. People of Sevsk greeted the Soviet soldiers with the tears in their eyes. Tormented by the Nazi occupation, exhausted but unconquered.
Meanwhile, the troops of the Central Army Group broke through a well-fortified enemy line in the Sevsk area and began to advance rapidly. The units that fought for Sevsk had the word Sevsk added to their name. All the troops were awarded a commendation for combat merit.
Those of you who are lined up before me are the worthy representatives of today's youth. If there should be any trouble, come what may, we shall overcome, and no doubt about that. Congratulations. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. However, I'm not sure if I could persevere if we had one more day like this. I have my doubts. I liked the experiment very much. I was ready for it. I believe in myself. Well, I doubted myself a little bit, but I still hoped. Our grandfathers had to train when the war was raging, so they had to give it all they got, with no remorse, because they had to fight for real.
The instructors took it easy on you, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. I liked the experiment and learned a lot from it. I found myself in my ancestors' shoes, if only for one day. I had to endure it. Thank you for helping me live through similar conditions, even if not all the way, that our great-grandfathers had to endure. Still, I had a chance to understand something of great value. March Sevsk-Dmitrovsk offensive operations was not much on the news during the war, and after the war it was nearly completely forgotten altogether. Why was our Sevsk offensive forgotten? The fact is that many of the military operations that took place between the Battle of Stalingrad and Kursk faded in comparison with their massive victories. Probably that was the way they did things back then. Many historians cite yet another reason, General Krukov's case.
Суди, люди, суди Бог, как же я любила, по морозу босиком к милому ходила.
Investigative authorities have established that he and his wife, singer Lydia Ruslanova, allegedly illegally appropriated a rich collection, captured luxury items, artifacts and paintings by famous artists, luxury automobiles.
Stalin was incredibly jealous of Zhukov's glory. Therefore, Abakumov came up with this version. How can you compromise every hero? 72 people, the Zhukov entourage, were arrested. How can they be besmirched? They thought about it for some time, and Abakumov accepted the version that they had looted various places in Germany and brought back God knows what from there. Dad paid for everything with the money he had, because they were paid large sums of money when the war ended. My father had bought 2 cars. Then they awarded distinguished heroes a car each, so it turned out that they looked filthy rich because of these 3 cars.
The punishment for Krukov was severe. He was stripped of all the ranks and commendations. He had to do 25 years of camps. Lydia Ruslanova was sentenced to 10 years and her property was confiscated. They were set free only after Stalin's death in 1953. However, The general's military career, his strategic feats, or the exploits of his soldiers were not discussed much for almost 70 years. The Great Patriotic War goes further and further into history. Fewer and fewer living witnesses of those terrible years remain. And most important thing we have to do is to preserve its memory. Unfortunately, there is a forgotten 29th Brigade, unjustifiably forgotten. No one knows about it. Even us historians do not know about it. Practically no one in the Novosibirsk region knew that there was such brigade. We must pay tribute to these young men. They died on foreign land, and bodies of many of them have not been recovered. Many of those heroes still don't even have graves where their grandchildren and great-grandchildren could come and bring flowers. 3 monuments were erected altogether, one in Sevsk on the Hill of Glory, one in Bryansk, and one on the grounds of Siberian Cadet Corps in Novosibirsk. The essence of warfare is fathomed by virtue of living through it. That is why the image we chose was of those 2 soldiers pushing forward into battle. We pay tribute to the dead and we lead our children by our example. For the residents of Sevsk, one fighter in a ghillie suit is a skier who defended these lands in February and March. The second was a Siberian rifleman who liberated Bryansk region in August 1943. Without a doubt, ski troopers triumphed through history. Just 500-kilometer march was a feat for heroes. They were not ninjas or Rambos. They were simple Russian men, yesterday's students, school children, farmers, workers and clerks. They broke the backbone of the German military machine. That is their main accomplishment.
There is only one photo that survived, which we used to restore the portrait, and that is it. Valentina Fedorovna, Ivan Fedorovich, Valentina Fedorovna, you know, we have visited the battlegrounds of your fathers. We saw the villages they fought for, met the people they had protecting. And you know that our skiers were generally called saviors. It was such a surprise to us. We brought earth from the battlefields of the 29th Brigade. They say that, in general, the Bryansk region is literally soaked in blood. Even trees don't grow there well. We brought a fistful of that land for you. This is soil. In this cartridge, there is a soil inside. Well, for you and your family as well. Keep it.
The victory banner. Millions of lives of Soviet soldiers are interwoven into it. It is made of their blood and tears, a sacred canvas, symbol of victory, the symbol of our pride and our honor.
Descendants of the 29th Novosibirsk Separate Ski Troop Brigade fighters arrived at the Lenin Square with portraits of their heroes.
After 77 years, the fellow soldiers are standing together. Fedot Mukaseyev, Fyodor Minchenko, Matvey Uskov. Their children and grandchildren carry their portraits. For them, the war is not a distant history. It is a living memory.
Безбрежных Мы из блокадной тьмы, мы из стихов сгоревших, из невысоких изб песенного всесилья. Мы из бессмертия, мы из плоти твоей, Россия. Мы от свинцовых роск падали снег с разбега, но поднимались прост, звонкие, как победа, как продолжение дня. Шли тяжело и мощно, можно убить меня, нас убить невозможно. Что же такое мы, веруя в пробуждение, взяв у земли взаймы силу в момент рождения, мы ей вернем сполна все, что она давала. Только была она, лишь бы существовала. Мы проросли в нее, будто трава степная, гибнет печи моя, солнце напоминая, глядя в лицо огня. Я говорю тревожно, можно убить меня, нас убить невозможно.
Можно убить меня.
Нас убить невозможно.